Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. Friday night, movie night. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 30-year veteran writer, illustrator, editor, publisher of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. And tonight is a double feature anime weekend. We're talking about the original 1988 anime of Appleseed, based on the manga by Masamune Shirow. And we're going to also discuss the 2014 CGI version, Appleseed Alpha. They're not the same film, they're totally different storylines, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But there was a couple of questions from last night's show. Some people asked me if I had watched Peter Samedi's live stream recently about things that were his pet peeves on crowdfunding. And I did watch the first 20 or 30 minutes of it. He kept going back and repeating the same topics over and over, the same subject matter. And maybe he would have gotten to more, but by about 30 minutes and I was getting tired of hearing the same spiel. So, I get it. You know, he was talking about wanting to see the writing from the writer, not just the artwork. He wanted to see the lettering. He wanted to see a finished full page, at least one of whatever project was being solicited. I get it. I'm not by any means besmirching him for wanting that. It sounds reasonable to me. But he kept harping on it for like 20, 30 minutes. It was just like, okay, I get the point. I guess he feels like a lot of the audience doesn't. He has to keep hammering it home. But, so if there was more to it than that, I'm sorry. But that's when I kind of checked out on that. Had other things to do. But I have watched it, at least that far. Someone else asked me what I thought of the new DC reboot, because we're rebooting again, apparently, and they're going to bring back the originals, the original core 7 or 8 Justice Leaguers, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, I guess Shazam and Cyborg and whatever. I'm not really caring one way or the other about it. We'll see what happens. I'm in no, there's not much to say about it right now. So that's kind of what the questions were in that respect. So let's go ahead and move on to our discussion of the topics for the night then. Our first movie is Appleseed, 1988, written and directed by Kazuyoshi Katayama, based on the characters from the Appleseed manga, written and drawn by Masamune Shirow, produced by Teru Miura, Atsushi, Sujita, Masaki Sawanabori, Taro Maki, and Hiroki Inui. Starring, in the English version, Larissa Murray, William Roberts, Lorelei King, Alan Marriott as David Reynolds, Vincent Marzello, Julia Brahms, and Adam Henderson. Production company was Gynax, distributed by Manga Entertainment and Discotheque Media in the U.S., with a running time of an hour and 10 minutes. It was originally released on April 21st, 1988, and it is a genre of post-apocalyptic SF police drama, cop drama. What it's about. After World War III, the General Management Control Office constructs an experimental city known as Olympus. It is inhabited by humans, cyborgs, and bioroids. Bioroids are genetically engineered beings created to serve mankind. They basically look like humans, but they've got different. They're not. It's not quite a cyborg, but it's closer to cyborg than just straight human. But they're more biological components than full metal, I guess you could say. They must the bioroids oversee all administrative duties of Olympus. Olympus was meant to be a utopian society, but unfortunately for some, it feels more like a cage. Charon Athalos, an Olympus City police officer, is one of the many who feel that way because his wife committed suicide because she felt she was trapped in the cage, and after that happened, he kind of lost his way psychologically. Chiron secretly conspires with a terrorist, AJ Sebastian, to destroy Gaia, which is the supercomputer that runs the various utilities and networks of the city of Olympus. Out to stop them are the Olympus City E-SWAT, enhanced SWAT team members Dunan Newt and Briarios Hecatonchires. Dunan and Briarios are determined to stop the terrorist plot by any means necessary. Of course, Dunan is the one in the front, and Briarios is the one behind them on the cover here. AJ and Sebastian and Chiron have plotted to disable Gaia, which is the computer system which controls the city's infrastructure, including the override circuits which safeguard their multi-platform, multi-ped cannon. To do so, they stage a raid on the facility where the bioroids are created, which creates havoc by killing and by arson. However, it is discovered that the attack is just a cover for stealing information on one particular bioroid, Hitomi, who happens to be a close friend of Dunan and Briarios, whose DNA is the genetic key which will cause Gaia to shut down. These locks are a handful of kiosks scattered across the city, and the city director orders all but one of them destroyed, and they place a heavy guard around the one that remains. But Sebastian converts to a full military configuration by stealing a certain mechanized droid and steals the multi-ped cannon, while Chiron, wearing a Cadmus suit, which is something a little bit bigger than what Briarios is as a cyborg. Think of it as like a Hulkbuster suit, if you are familiar with that. But he's made it faster by removing half of the armor and the weight, so it's actually not that proof of weaponry. But anyway, he figures he can get Hitomi to the one surviving kiosk and get through their defenses to get her through the portal. And through a hail of gunfire, he goes through and gets her through without getting her killed. And but he dies, but she's terrified and she backs into the kiosk, which shuts and launches the shutdown process. To cover his theft of the multi-ped cannon, Sebastian uses a tank and its weapons to damage the city, while the director and Dunan rush to try to restart Gaia by destroying the circuit module, which keeps that system offline. However, in the scramble to get to the circuit module, Dunan's pistol and damage and her right shooting hand is injured by the Gaia defense system. The director hands over her own pistol and trusts Dunan's skill more than her own, even with their unfamiliar weapon and shooting left-handed. After shooting several attempts and missing with her last round of ammunition, Dunan is able to hit the module with the pistol fire, and Gaia immediately disables the multi-ped cannon. Sebastian falls to his death in the machine and gets shot dead by E-SWAT forces. And then later, Chiron is kind of mourned because they realized that he was kind of a victim in the whole thing of himself as well. and the day is won. This is more of an original side story that's loosely based on the characters and concepts from the manga and not a true adaptation of the original source materials. Now, what I thought. Well, originally I saw this when I was 16, and I think I saw the film and read the manga around the same time. So, in my memory, I thought there was more to the plot of the film than there was. Like, this was maybe 20 to 30 minutes shorter of a story than I remembered it being. Maybe I was just blending memories of what I read in the manga into the film. It has been 25 years since I'd watched this originally. At least 25 years since the last time I'd watched it. But I could have sworn they had done more with what was done with Chiron and how they mind raped him. When his wife committed suicide, she was seeing psychiatrists, and the psychiatrist basically took him into psychiatric ward and subjected him to technology that could read his mind, basically, and show him pictures and stuff. And then he felt extremely violated, and that's where he came to hate all of Olympus from. I also could have sworn there was more story involving Dunan and Briareos' relationship prior to being an Olympus eSWAT team as well. So it left me wondering if there wasn't a longer director's cut of this film somewhere out there, because the story seemed to be lacking comparative to the manga. That having been said, it's still an okay movie. I wish they hadn't done some of the cussing in it, or as much of the cussing. I'm pretty sure that was a turnoff for some of the people in my regular audience who might have watched the show, like John Norris or somebody like that. Probably wouldn't have appreciated some of the. It's not that it's necessarily inappropriate for what's going on, but at the same time, it didn't need to be there either. I wish they'd also explained more of what Briareos is as a cyborg and how much of him is human and how much is robot. Because that was part of the manga more. Done more with Hitomi to explain her importance as a character and not treat her more or less like a deus machina of the plot. But overall, it's okay. I recommend it for ages 16 and up. They say 14 and up. I say 16 and up because of the language, and some of the violence is a little bit heavy, so I would say 16 and up. And I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Now, the next film was Appleseed Alpha, which was originally released in 2014. As you can see, it's a CGI version, more realistic looking. Directed by Shinji Aramaki, written by Marianne Krosik, based on the Appleseed manga by Masamune Shirow, produced by Joseph Chow and Ichi Kamagata. The U.S. English language version cast is Lucy Christian, David Matranga, Wendell Calvert, Chris Hutchinson, Adam Gibbs, Brina Palencia, Josh Schultz, and Elizabeth Bunch. Production company is Sola Digital Arts. Released July 15th, 2014. It is an hour and 33 minutes instead of an hour and, hour and 10 for the other one. And again, a post-apocalyptic, I say cop drama. They're not really cops in this. We'll get into that in a minute. This film doesn't follow any of the previous Appleseed movie canon. It features an alternate version of the story's origins. Briareos, for example, was already a cyborg and not become separated from Dunan to later be reunited in Olympus to join eSWAT. They are basically just survivors after World War III in New York City, and surviving soldiers, and they kind of just take day-to-day mercenary jobs. This depicts the early days of Newt and Dunan and Briareos in the 22nd century. They embark on a journey through the dystopic ruins of New York City in search of the city of Olympus, where in New York they're hired by a criminal warlord named Two Horns to eliminate bipedal combat machines that are roaming around the city killing people. During the fight, they end up seeing and befriending Iris and Olsen, who are on their own mission separately. And it turns out they're from Olympus, and they join them on their mission to prevent the malevolent cyborg Talos from capturing the human secret weapon, which is a gigantic war machine nearby that can actually wipe out all of New York in like 2 blasts. Now, this is actually what they consider a prequel to what were yet other Appleseed films that came after the original 1988 traditional anime that were CGI style. But they were just telling more alternate versions of what was going on in the manga, rather than sticking to original source materials. Now, if you haven't seen any of the other films or you haven't read the manga, the good news is that you can actually watch this without knowing that stuff and get a whole story and feel like you've got everything that you need to know. Maybe not so much with the 88 version. Now, I haven't seen the other CGI Appleseed films, so I can't give you any context, unfortunately. Maybe in the future I'll look for some of those and review those as well. But as the story progresses, we learn, of course, that Iris and Olsen are from Olympus and they're tasked with destroying the war machine. Talos is seeking them out as Iris turns out to be the key to the machine. Like Hitomi in the 1988 version, she's a bioroid whose DNA, Iris in the eye coding, is what unlocks the war machine, just like it unlocked Gaia in the first film with Hitomi. Bree and Dunan are basically just listless ex-soldiers. Like I say, they take jobs, live day to day in the ruins of New York City, working for Two Horns until they cross paths with these two. And Iris gives them, the two of them, a purpose and a cause to fight for. And so fight they do. But can they stop Talos from destroying everything in his path? To be honest with you, I was not expecting to like this film as much. I'm generally not a fan of the more modern CGI anime films. And since the story was a precursor to their time as Olympus E-SWAT members, I wasn't entirely sold on the premise of this film based on what little information I had of it before I got it. But I will happily admit this film was much better than I expected, and actually better than the 88 film in terms of the story, even though it clearly took elements from the 88 film as well as the manga. The animation is a little stiff here and there, but that's to be expected with CGI style animation, especially stuff that's almost 10 years old now. Some of their characters look like the mutant Two Horns, reminded me of a bit of the Silverhawks villain Mumbo Jumbo, but he was a hoot of a crime boss and good comic relief character. And the Matthews character, who was the mechanic, so to speak, that was helping put Briar Rios back together and keep him charged up and stuff for Two Horns, reminded me a little bit too much visually of the Gyro Captain in the Road Warrior, which was played by Bruce Spence, the one who flew around the minicopter in the Road Warrior. He looks very similar to that in design. It kind of was a little bit distracting to me. I did like the Briar Rios design in this film. Dunan was okay. She kind of looks a little bit like my comic book character Tina Blake, to be honest, but there's a little bit too much bare skin showing in the midriff, and the way they draw focus in the design to her chest is problematic in terms of the story. After all, they're constantly being shot at, but you wear no chest protection because the audience needs to think you're Power Girl with a boob window shirt. I mean, come on. At least I usually depict Tina wearing a vest where she's protected. Come on. Let's use a little bit of common sense. And there were some other scenes that there would be no way where Dunan fell way too far of a distance. She would die from the fall. Same thing with Two Horns. There's no way they could have survived that height of a fall. And especially when they established, give me a second. I'm trying to think of his name. Olsen. There we go. They established the Olsen dies from the height and the fall and the collision from it. So I would not say that they would have survived. But all in all, the story makes a lot more sense than the 1988 version does. It's more self-contained. The characters' motivations are consistent throughout and make sense. Not always so much in the 88 version. Again, it still does play off the 88 version and the original manga, but it stands on its own merits. I actually wouldn't mind if this became its own TV series based on this version, with the story continuing as our intrepid duo go out into the world to find out, to try and find the mythic Olympus city, because they're still in New York City at the end of the film, and they're leaving New York to try and find Olympus at the end of the movie. And that could have worked very well as a TV series. This was rated PG-13. Again, their language is a bit strong at times, in my opinion. And I think if this was a live action film instead of an animation, I think the film would have received an R rating. So again, I would say recommended more for ages 16 and up. But I do give it a 4 out of 5 compared to the 3 out of 5 for the 88 version. And that's really all there is to say. A lot of my friends this week couldn't make it. John was feeling better, I guess, and is back working on music directing for Little Shop of Horrors here in Lexington County, South Carolina. So he's busy. And two of my other guys are usually here, Monster Fan and Pop Culture. Monster Fan didn't get a chance to watch it, and I haven't heard from Pop, so I don't know. But that's okay. Sometimes it's easier for me to run these down really quickly and have a shorter show, just because we got things to do, all of us on these crazy days. And so tomorrow, probably around 1, maybe 2 p.m., we're going to have a live draw episode. I'll be drawing Brian Rodman's The Nebulizer. This is the character. And I'll also be drawing some other characters as well during that time period. So feel free to stop by. We'll also have some goodies that you might be able to purchase during the show. Some comics, maybe some other sketches. We'll see what's going on. But we'll see you tomorrow at that time. But in the meantime, if you liked this video, hold on a second. What's going on with this? Nope, that's not it. Ooh, you're being mean to me, computer. Don't you lock up on me. Next week's discussion for the film and TV will be the new Quantum Leap series. Remember that next Monday, September 19th at 10 p.m., the reboot version premieres. I'll watch it, and that's what I'll be talking about on the Friday show next week. So feel free to watch it and then come back on Friday next week and discuss it with me. And again, tomorrow, Saturday afternoon, we will do a live draw as well. So if you liked this episode, or you think others might, as I always say at the end of these shows, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from my channel. As always, I thank you for watching and for your support. If you have questions or comments, you can reach me on social media at Facebook, Lewis.BrightRaven, on Twitter at LewisBrightRaven2. You see more of my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, exclusively on YouTube. if you have questions, comments, suggestions for other topics to be discussed, Quoth the Raven, lbr72@gmail.com is the address to reach out to me at. And if I don't get back to you in a day or two, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. That is all for now, folks. So I wish you a pleasant evening. We'll see you next time. Have a great weekend if I don't see you tomorrow.